Hi, friend. How are you? Happy Wednesday. I hope that you've been having a fabulous start to the week. I know I have. I just drove back to Austin, Texas this morning from San Antonio, where I have been for the last 2 days doing a speaking and facilitating workshop with James Lee, who is an amazing entrepreneur and owner of a senior care facility, which is a really senior care community, I should say. Rather, it was a really interesting 2 days. It was deep. It was profound. We had a lot of takeaways. It was awesome to facilitate such a great group of smart, interesting humans. So yeah, that's my morning. I'd love to hear how your morning's been. Big hello to Kyle and Giacomo and Jim and Kelly and Murano. Man, Jeff, it's so good to see you. Matthew, hey, Rob, hey, Andrew, Omir. Man, we've got such a great bunch here, as usual. And today's coffee chat is a little bit different. It's a little more laid back. It's a little more you and I hanging out, discussing all things business and entrepreneurship. I'm not going to lie, I was excited about this session because it's kind of fun just to nerd out with you. It's fun to nerd out. It's fun to talk to smart, interesting people, which you are and which have joined us here today. So I'm really excited about it. And it is the second to last coffee meeting that we are having in 2023, which is absolutely wild. Hey, Sarah from Arkansas, man, good to see you. And Nadia, so good to see you as well. You know, next week is our last Wednesday coffee date, and I wanted to have us go out with a bang. So next week we are going to have my good friend Antonio joining us, and you might have remembered him. He came on last year just to dig in on all things autopilot and how we get on autopilot and how we sort of go through the motions in our job, in our lives, with our partners, with our kids, and how to sort of halt us right in our tracks, stop us, and get off autopilot and really get intentional about where we're going, where our energy is going, where we can kind of point our power and storm on through. And so I thought he would be the perfect person to end 2023 with, so that as we kind of go into the holidays and kind of ruminate and think about 2023 and reflect on it, that we can also give ourselves a really good direction for 2024. I'm glad that Kelly is also giving me a vote of confidence by saying, I'm so excited for the chat with Antonio. I need that session so much because I really, really, really need a strong start to 2024. Well, I don't know about you, Kelly, but you are not alone on this side of the table. I don't know about what Claude thinks or Giacomo or anybody else in the chat, but yes, 2024, I want to start out really intentionally. I want to start out with a clear vision of what I want and where I want to go. I will not call it a New Year's resolution. For some reason, I feel like that's the kiss of death. The minute you say it's a New Year's resolution, it's almost guaranteeing that you're never going to accomplish it. I don't know if that makes me a pessimist, unclear. But I just feel like when you say it's my New Year's resolution, it puts a lot of pressure and it puts a lot of emphasis on it. And so instead, I like to just think about it in terms of like a new vision, a new direction, a new goal. Goals can change. We can achieve them, and the carrot keeps moving further and further down the line. So I like to think about it just, where is my ship pointing? Where are we sailing? How fast are we going? What direction are we going? And more importantly, who's on the boat with us? I hope you were on the boat with me in 2024, because these Wednesday sessions are not going to stop. We have been reimagining and dreaming up what these could look like. So as always, I would love your input or things that you want to see or want to talk about, or structure that you like. If you like things that are a little more free for all, like we're doing today, or if you like things that have a clear sort of middle, beginning, end vision, what you're going to get, the tips, the tactics, the takeaways, all that good stuff. So we'll love your input on how that goes. I'm glad that Jeff is calling it a plan versus a resolution. I resonate with that so much, because again, I really want a 2024 plan. what's important to me. Is it spending more time with family? Is it prioritizing a new project in my business? Is it connecting with more like-minded entrepreneurs here in Austin? Whatever that is, just getting that plan together and really charging ahead at full force in January when we kick off the new year. So I'm glad that you're thinking around the same thing. Sahara is asking, I'm excited for the session today and curious to know, how did you begin these lives and grow your audience? New person alert. Well, first of all, we love new people around here. So this is me giving you a virtual hug, a virtual air hug, because we love new people around here. You will hear us say that a lot, that we are a fun, welcoming bunch. And I like to think it's true. You'll see in the chat that we're a pretty fun, lively, entertaining, smart bunch. So I hope this is one of the first of many sessions that you will join with us on Wednesdays, starting back up next week, but then ultimately in January. But honestly, we started these lives as a way to connect. I assume, like most people, when COVID hit, we all felt pretty isolated. I know I personally felt really isolated. I am a little more old school in the way that I like to do business or network, and that was historically in person. I love kind of sitting mano a mano in a coffee shop, or grabbing drinks, or really connecting with clients and new acquaintances and just new networks in person. And so when COVID hit, obviously all of that came to a screeching halt. And I thought to myself, I cannot be the only person who is really lacking during this time and really misses connecting with other smart individuals. I know it really spurs my creativity and my thinking. And so when I didn't have that, I felt like something was missing. And so LinkedIn Live was a new feature that LinkedIn had kind of just rolled out before the pandemic hit. And I thought, why not me? Why not now? Why wait? And so I took the leap and jumped on a live. And I have to say, it is, and I've said this numerous times, so this is not new for anyone who's joined us before, but I will continue to say it because it is very much true. It is the single biggest source of joy and spark of change in my life and in my business the last 3 years. Easy, hands down. The people that I've met, not only met here virtually every week, but in real life, whether that's Jeff in New York, or whether that is meeting up to the last 2 days I spent in San Antonio with James Lee, who found me via LinkedIn Live and LinkedIn. All of these situations and opportunities and business connections and great recommendations from, book recommendations from Giacomo or Jen sending me PowerPoints that are really powerful. None of this would have happened without LinkedIn, and specifically without this live session. And so what I have found, this is more of like a philosophical thing, but what I have found is when you put out your intentions and your energy into the world, other people who are like-minded see that and say, yeah, that's for me. Like smart people getting together every Wednesday to share resources, tips, tactics, learnings, book recommendations, smart newsletters. Yeah, that's for me. I want to copy off the homework of people that are really smart. And so when you put that energy out there, other people come into that space and say, yeah, I like that too. And so I think, I will say for myself, I think that is what we have created to here, and what is so magical about meeting here live every single Wednesday, and just having the opportunity to network in real life, network virtually. The virtually leads to real life. It's sort of this full 360 moment that I think, to Jeff's point, without COVID wouldn't actually have been possible to create this community. Because again, I'll speak for myself. I don't know about you, but I probably wouldn't, had COVID not happened, I probably would have seen that LinkedIn had a new feature. And I thought, I would have thought to myself, like, oh, that's nice. LinkedIn has a new bell and whistle. Like, that's interesting. I would have never taken the leap. I would have never said, let's start a live meeting every single one. I never would have done that. I would have been in my own world, doing emails, meeting with clients in Manhattan. I never would have done it, because I would have had my sort of fill of networking and interesting people and all that sort of stuff in real life. I would have never thought that I needed to supplement it. Now that I have supplemented it, it's, obviously the world has opened back up and I'm still here every single Wednesday. So now I realize the insatiable draw I have to this community, to the smart people that show up here every single week. And I think that's why I keep coming back. As Shelby said, like, I'm not crying, you're crying. So I think that's why I have so much fun here and just really enjoy learning from you, from the people that we bring on. I think that's huge, and really just a benefit that no matter where you are in the world, you can learn with really smart, intelligent people. So also a piece of business advice there, to find your tribe and grow your tribe and stick with them, because it's pretty great. Sarah's asking, when you started your company, how did you get the financing to back what you're doing? Did you save your pennies or did you get investors? Whew, this is a hot topic. And I have a very contrarian thought on this topic. I feel like what is sort of admired or applauded, at least in the United States, I can't speak for the rest of the world, but it is this raising of money. It has become this like bragging right of, oh, well, I raised $100,000 from angel investors, or I just raised my Series A, or I just raised my Series C. We raised $12 million. I raised, and, I think of it like Halloween candy. One piece is nice, 100 pieces, you might get a stomach ache. So we did not raise money at all to start our company. We bootstrapped. I could get on my soapbox all day long and talk about bootstrapping. I actually have a whole LinkedIn course talking about bootstrapping. Like, that's what big of soapbox I get on about it. But I will say we started an agency. So really the only thing that we needed was our brains, a phone, and a computer. We were selling ideas. We were selling, yes, physical product, but we knew people were going to pay for that product. So I always explain it like this pen, right? I know that this pen costs $1, but I'm going to sell it to you for $2. So I already know before we even start working together that I'm going to make $1. That's a silly example, but it just goes to show that I already knew I was going to be making money before we would start a project, which is much different than if you wanted to start a bakery. Yeah, if you want to start a bakery, you need cupcake mixers and flour and sugar and butter and maybe a retail space or a stand at the farmer's market, all of which cost money and upfront money. So I think some businesses lend themselves more to, I don't need to raise money. I can kind of save my pennies or bootstrap and put all the money back into the business. Or some companies say we require tons and tons of money upfront. Any of these like med health companies or med tech companies, require tons of money up front to do the research and do the innovations before they can sell a product. So obviously in those cases, they have to raise. But I always think, again, this is just my personality type. I am the word is not emotional, but I'm very invested in who I work with and my work. I'm working on compartmentalizing. It's still a little hard for me. If I have a bad day, I definitely like kind of bring that home with me. I'll be sad for the rest of the day. I'm trying to do better about that. But what would bring me personally a lot of anxiety is if I took $100,000 from people, there would always be something in the back of my mind that, yes, you're always going to work hard and yes, you're going to push yourself, but I would have almost this like frenetic energy of like, I have got to these people back and I have to pay them back now. Like I feel so uncomfortable. I've taken their money. What if I lose it? What if something happens? What if, I can't control the outcome, but then they've trusted me with this money and I lose it? That sort of stress, again, for my personality type, Sarah, would be sort of disastrous. So, but I have lots of friends, by the way. I have a good friend here who raised, over $15 million and, is able to go to sleep at night and totally fine. So I would also say it probably depends on your personality type and it depends on how you would internalize that. So it's a little bit of different strokes for different folks and what works best for you. And as Mercy says, bootstrapping is a challenge, but totally worthwhile. I agree with that. But again, I know that some businesses don't always lend themselves to that approach. So it definitely depends. And to Mariana's point, it's tricky when you give up that control to go that route and you start involving investors. He's absolutely right, because then you start having other opinions and other people join your board. And you might say, well, I want my cupcake shop to, I'm making this up, go with me on this example, but I want my cupcake shop to be gluten-free. Well, if you just took $250,000, $250,000 from an angel investor and they say, well, I don't think the bakery should be gluten-free. I think it should have gluten-free options, but also include, gluten-filled pastry goods. They get a vote now. I honestly, I call it a marriage. It's a business marriage. So you don't get married and then get to look at your partner and spouse and say, oh, by the way, your votes don't count. like, no, you're married. Like in my case, like I have got to take into account my husband's opinion. I don't have to always listen to it, but I have to take it into account. We have to have a dialogue there. I can't just say, well, let's get married and then I'm going to keep living like I'm single. I mean, that's not how it works. So a business taking on investors is very much the same. You are in a business marriage and you have to take into account their thoughts, their feelings, their vision, and you're really your partners in the business. So I think that that's important to keep in mind. Matthew's taking us on a totally different tangent, but I do think it kind of relates when it comes to business and starting a business and entrepreneurship and sort of this mindset and what type of mindset you have. But he says, hey, everybody, do you have any tips on how to unlearn an upbringing that was in short poverty? Once you are there, all efforts are in vain. I think so much of what we all battle with as adults is mindset, confidence, and imposter syndrome. I really like those three things. To me are sort of the top three things that, again, I'll speak for myself, I'll speak for friends or people that I interact with. Those are really the top three mindsets that essentially hold us back. And the best advice that I have found to battle through that and get through that is really, it's two pieces of advice. The first one being, nobody really knows what they're doing anyways. So when you have that imposter syndrome, when you're feeling that scarcity, just know it's not that everybody else has it figured out and you don't. It's nobody has it figured out. And everybody's trying to figure it out. It's one of the reasons why we meet here every Wednesday, because everyone's like, did this work for you? What tactic did you try? How are you saving money? It's the end of the year. How are you going after that promotion? What are you doing with your bonus? Are you putting it into a SEP account? Are you trying to get a 401k opened up? I mean, we're all learning. We're all sort of in this jumbly mix, trying to make sense of it together. So that's number one. And number two, I will say what has also really helped with mindset, kind of standing in your power, knowing that you deserve more, knowing that there is a future for you that is looking back on current you and saying, I'm glad you kept fighting. And that is to surround yourself with positive people. Huge, 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 huge. Surround yourself with positive, encouraging people. If you don't have that in your real life, please find it virtually, whether that is here with us on Wednesdays or somewhere else. That is massive. and to not only surround yourself with physical humans that are supportive and virtual humans that are supportive, but also fill your mind. You are a gas tank. Fill your mind with good things. So read. If you don't like reading, Audible. Okay, Audible. If you don't like reading and you don't like Audible, get a newsletter. That's much shorter, but get smart information disseminated to you constantly, whatever form that takes. Podcasts, newsletters, books, Audible. So not only surrounding yourself with smart, positive, great humans, but consuming a diet of smart, interesting reads and content, because I think too much of what we consume now is candy and not carrots. We consume a lot of the Real Housewives and the Selling Sunset and the Kardashians and what's going on people.com. And that's all fun and good. We need a piece of candy after dinner for sure. But we also need some carrots. We also need some Atomic Habits, some James Clear, some Adam Grant, any of these really great, Simon Sinek, whoever it is, get some of those good carrot reads in as well, in addition to the candy. So I think that balance is really, really important and something that everyone should try as best they can to really strive towards, for sure. Okay, Kyle is asking, how do you deal with a terrible customer without worrying that they're going to put out a bad name about yourself or your business within the area that you work in? Honestly, Kyle, I've had this happen to me. Let's be honest, it sucks. Like, I won't try to sugar. It sucks. It really, really, it's the worst when you have somebody that is just never happy, not satisfied. Maybe they're yelling at you or whatever else. This is my approach. So take this. I'm sure I would encourage everybody else who's here with us live, or even who's watching or listening after this, to add to the comments to kind of supplement what I'm going to tell Kyle with what you would tell Kyle. But what I would say is, or what I have done in the past, is I try to channel Spock from Star Trek, which is totally bizarre, but go with me here, because if you ever watched the show or you didn't, Spock was very not emotional, not judgmental, very rational. And so what I have found is when you're dealing with people that are very emotional, they're very like angry, or they're terrible, or they're never happy, I sort of go in being like, I am Spock. Like, I'm not going to react to you screaming with me. I'm not going to scream back. If you're being nasty to me, I'm not going to be nasty back. I'm going to be very factual. When I've had a customer who isn't happy, I look to solve the problem. If I can solve the problem, I solve it. I go above and beyond to solve it. So maybe that's giving them a 50% discount. Maybe that's giving them the service or product for free. But then I always say you can forgive an unfortunate situation, but never forget. So what I mean by that is, I've had kind of naughty clients in the past where I say, I get it. You're not happy. I'm more than happy to give you a discount. We'll call it a day. And that's sort of, in my mind, like strike one on them. Like, okay, you get one for free. Maybe something was wrong. Maybe you have something going on in your personal life. I still don't know why you're screaming at me, but sure, whatever. You have some stuff going on, fine. But the second time they do it, Kyle, I'm like, what is that? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. When somebody shows you who they are a second time, believe it, because they will continue to be difficult. They will continue to abuse you. They will continue to be terrible to your staff or your employees or your contractors. So the second time it happens, again, I'm very Spock. I'm very like, I'm sorry you weren't happy again, whether 50% off, or we'll correct the mistake, or we'll replace the goods, whatever. But then when they come back a third time, I very nicely, I do this very nicely. I say, our book is full right now. We actually can't take your work on. I'm really sorry. We can't take on your business. We can't take on your work. Here's 3 other providers that I would love to point you in the direction of, that they're great and they're trustworthy and they're wonderful. I'd like you to give your business to them. And I'll tell you what, man, it works. And I've also had clients, they know, they know when they've been naughty, because then maybe they do go work with this other group and then they come back again. And when I do the same thing again, then all of a sudden, oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, is there any way you can fit me in? Oh, and sometimes I do kind of give them that Hail Mary chance and see if they can kind of earn their way back, because I do believe that people can change their stripes. But I'm very quick to kind of rid myself, my team, my vendors, my staff from that terrible negative energy. I just don't think, even with my really high paying clients, it's not worth the stress and it's not worth the headache that those people cause. It's just terrible. This will be my favorite question because it's from Shelby. She says, you're the queen of forever learning. How do you plan budget-wise and time-wise to have enough of those learning moments, but not take away too much from your everyday work or the work that brings you money? Again, I am a big fan of time blocking. I'm a big fan of calendar dates and dates with yourself. So honestly, I try to set aside time. If it happens once a week, great. I don't beat myself up if it doesn't happen once a week. Maybe it happens once every other week. In some really busy seasons of my life, sometimes that's just once a month. But I try to set aside an hour, 2 hours to watch a LinkedIn learning class, to jump on somebody's live, I try to take an hour, quite frankly, every Sunday to read all the newsletters, the smart, interesting newsletters that I have subscribed to. I mean, throughout the week, whether I'm shopping at the grocery store or whether I am out for a run, I'm always trying to consume podcasts that are interesting, whether that is podcasts of people I know, whether that's podcasts of people that I don't know, just really trying to constantly, wherever I can fit it in, even if it's just, hey, I'm going for a 20-minute walk around the block, let me pop in, the My First Million, as an example, podcast, and let me learn a little bit from Sam and whoever he's interviewing that day. I think that those sort of moments can be quick, but also really helpful, because you're right. Finding large chunks of time, super hard, super tough. And also finding chunks of time when you're thinking to yourself, I should be making money right now, not spending 4 hours learning something that's not going to bring me income. So I try to set aside a little bit of time. Again, ideally each week. Sometimes in some busy seasons, that's every other week or once a month, but at least being intentional about setting up that date with myself and then trying very hard not to cancel that date with myself, because I think that that's what we all have grown accustomed to doing, is canceling that date with ourselves. And we do it all the time. So I try not to do that. Giacomo was asking, in order to achieve your goals, how much do you think it's important to have mentors, and how many mentors should a person have? I'm very bullish on having more than one mentor. I'm also very bullish on changing your mentors. I don't think that the mentors you have, again, the way I like to think about this is, imagine that you are an athlete. So let's take, I don't know, name an athlete, whether it's David Beckham or Tom Brady or any great athlete, LeBron James, whoever it might be. The coach, if you will, the basketball coach that LeBron had in high school is very different than the coach that he had in college, which is very different than the coach he had in the NBA, which might be very different than the trainer or the nutritionist or the weightlifting advisor that he has had along his journey, because he shifts and he changes, and maybe he's getting older, or maybe he needs to train for his jump shot more. Maybe he needs to strengthen his ankle because he rolled it, but he's sort of constantly switching up, whether it's a nutritionist or a weight trainer or a coach or a mindset expert, really bringing in new people based on his needs and ebbs and flows. And I think sometimes when we think about mentors, we think, okay, Claude is my mentor and I have to keep Claude for the entire, 20-year history of my career. And I just think a lot of times I see that mentors are being sort of rolled over every 2 or 3 years based on needs. Not to say that that person can't come back into the mix. You had a mentor at 25, you kind of got somebody new to listen to at 27, and then that same mentor that you had at 25 comes back at 30, for an example. It's not to say that they can't come back around, but really finding mentors based on your goals, based on what you want, where you're pointing your boat and what direction it's going in. So that's, again, another reason why I'm so excited to have Antonio next week, because as we think about what do we want to do in 2024? What are our goals for our work? What are our goals for our family? What are our goals for our personal lives? You might need new mentors based on this new direction that you are pointing your boat in. So I also have an article talking about the 4 mentors that I think everybody should have. So that is on my LinkedIn, or you can just put on Google Kim Kaupe 4 mentors. It will come up. You can give it a read. It gives a little more structure and framework to what type of mentors I think you need. But more importantly than what type you need, I think it's also just nice to hear that they don't always have to stay the same. I think that's a big myth that we have to bust and really set a new story to, because that's not always the case. Marino is also asking, how much have you evolved your business as of late this year based on a post-COVID era? And how do you envision AI impacting your business? I'm really excited. We're going to have Dave Burris come on in January. He's joined us before, but Dave is sort of spearheading a whole movement when it comes to AI and creativity. I think that it will impact, it certainly has impacted my business in terms of just helping us brainstorm more, helping us brainstorm new ideas. I think it's almost like having another person in the room that you can sort of knock ideas back and forth over. My personal opinion, and this is not to say that this won't develop, but I don't think right now that it actually replaces another human. I think it's sort of just a good sounding board or a good way to generate ideas. Do I think that it's going to take over the world and replace all creativity jobs? No, I don't, because I do think that you, and I don't know if anybody else has seen this, chime in if you have. I know I have. When I see a piece of content, and I see a lot of it actually on LinkedIn, written by AI, I can tell. There's no emotion. There's no personal storytelling. There's no examples of this happened last year. I saw this, because it can't, because it's an AI. It can't say I saw this, or this is what it was like at my first job. So I think you can tell it reads a little more cold. It reads a little more factual, sort of like listicle almost. And I think that that's great. And there's a time and place for that. But I do think that, is it going to become the next Edgar Allan Poe? I don't know, maybe eventually. But for right now, I think if I put an Ernest Hemingway book and an AI book in front of you and didn't tell you which was which, you'd be able to figure out the difference. So that is just my 2 cents when it comes to all things AI and what that can look like. I'm glad that I'm not the only one talking about mentors. I'm glad that Ralph is also really into the mentorship stuff as well, because I think that that's huge. I know Matthew's asking, how do you look for a mentor if you don't have much of a network? Shameless plug. Right here, baby. That's what we're doing right here. So if you are looking for a mentor, if you are looking at connecting with someone in a certain space or industry or area, I would highly, 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 highly encourage you to utilize the smart people that come here every Wednesday. So I would highly encourage you in these comments, connecting with people to say, hey, does anybody know anyone in whatever it is, aerospace engineering, or does anyone know anybody in the Atlanta area that is an entrepreneur? This is a really well networked group of individuals that are here every week. And it would not surprise me in the slightest if somebody said, yes, I do know someone, a friend of a friend, my boyfriend's brother's girlfriend works at that company. Just 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon is alive and well around these parts. So if you are looking for a human, a resource, a tip or a tactic, highly, highly encourage you to really leverage the people that are joining here every single week, because as Jen said, this group is, I'm biased, but I don't think you're going to get any better. I don't think you're going to get a better group that is more helpful, more well-connected, more smart, more open than this weekly group right here to help you leverage and also to help hold yourself accountable. We've done a lot of accountability here in this community. And I think that that's always really powerful when you can leverage that community, leverage those shared resources. I think it's really, really important. Zahara is asking, were you ever anxious when starting out that no one would turn up for your live or no one would hire your agency? And how did you deal with those anxious feelings they wouldn't find any clients or nobody would join a new venture that you started? And I think for me, the biggest unlock that I really developed, and maybe it's from getting older, I don't know, or maturing, you have to be willing to be cringy. Like your biggest wins and unlocking new and exciting opportunities are on the other side of cringe. And the cringe and the awkwardness and the anxiousness and the embarrassment is what keeps you from trying that new thing, for volunteering for that new leadership position. Because what if you fail? Because what if everybody laughs at you? Because what if everybody in the office thinks you're terrible? Because what if you launch an online store and nobody buys? Because what if you do your first TikTok and you don't get any views? And what if you start a LinkedIn Live and nobody shows up? You will never know unless you get over that hump of cringe and embarrassment and you just do it. You just do it. And you also have to do it, I think, expecting nothing, but doing it out of your own volition, out of your own sort of throw your hands up in the air and go, let's see if this works. I don't know, but let's give it a go. So really going in, not thinking, well, if no one joins, then I'm going to be so upset. Then I'm going to go cry in my pillow. And then no, we're going in with no expectations. We're going in with a joyful heart. We're going in with curiosity. We're seeing that little string of curiosity, and like a cat, we're like pulling on it, going, what's over there? Let me just try. I think once I started realizing that, 90% of people are not brave enough to be cringy. They're not brave enough to be cringy. So therefore they will never kind of experience the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, because you have to walk over the rainbow footpath of cringe to get to the pot of gold. And so I think it's when we do those hard, uncomfortable, awkward things that the good stuff starts to happen. It's funny, Shelby and I were actually talking just last week because, spoiler alert, if you don't already follow her, she will have a new LinkedIn learning class coming out, actually all about going live, all about doing this, how you do this yourself at home and what that takes and what that looks like. So I think that course will probably come out sometime in 2024, maybe, potentially. We don't exactly know when. But we were talking about how she was going in and taping and how it's kind of like awkward and, you're in front of the camera and you're not used to doing that. And I was like, just go for it. And obviously she did. And I say all that as a physical example, because if Shelby had said, oh, but I just can't get to that other side of, cringe, she would never have a LinkedIn learning course. her new course wouldn't be debuting in 2024. She wouldn't have met the people that she met or have the opportunity. So you have to kind of push yourself through the cringe and get to the other side. But I think anyone that tells you, oh, it's going to be fun and embrace a challenge and, have fun in the, no, I'll be real with you. Like, it's not fun. Like, it is cringe. Like, you do get embarrassed. Like, it is very much where you're like, do I look like a flipping idiot right now? And the answer is like, potentially, but you have to just be okay with knowing that it's going to be uncomfortable and it's going to be cringe and it might be embarrassing and you have to do it anyway. You got to do a lot of things in life that are cringy and embarrassing, but the good stuff is on the other side of that. So, to Giacomo's point, if you never try, you'll never know. Or to Jeff's point, anxiety is the future state of fear. So really kind of diving into that with an open heart and knowing that you will get through the other side and you can do it. It's just, that's huge. I think that's massively, massively helpful. I love this question from Jeff. I definitely want to tackle it, which is, what do you outsource to make entrepreneurial life easier? Man, I outsource a lot of stuff to Shelby and to other people in my life. I think what I would say was the biggest learning lesson for me. It is a big learning lesson that I encourage other people, a skill that I encourage entrepreneurs or just anyone to have, and that is to learn to delegate effectively. If you are a micromanager, if you say, well, it's just easier if I do it myself. I'll use the example because the holidays are coming up. Maybe you have some holiday shopping to do. Instead of saying, let me trust my sister to help me, let me trust my partner, let me trust my friend, let me trust my neighbor to bake the cupcakes for the neighborhood holiday party. If you don't learn to trust or you don't learn to delegate, yes, you can make the cupcakes for the holiday party for me, but here's the exact recipe I want you to use. And, here are some resources to help you get it done. If you don't learn that skill, because it is a skill, delegation is a skill, letting go is a skill. If you don't learn those skills, it will be impossible for you to succeed, not only as an entrepreneur, even in a corporate field as a leader. You have got to learn to trust other people, delegate to them, be okay with delegating to them, and effectively delegating to them. I think that even just kind of learning that skill is step one. Then you can go to step two, which is, what do you actually outsource? What are the things in life that you can outsource, whether that's personal stuff like grocery shopping or booking a hotel room on a flight for the holidays or a rental car, or whether that's outsourcing work stuff. In my case, whether that is setting up lives on LinkedIn or whether it is ordering, workbooks for a speaking engagement, which is something I had to do on Monday of this week. Or outsource rather to Shelby on Monday of this week. Those sort of things. It's kind of, first is learn how to do it. And then second is figure out what things you can actually do. But I think the biggest mistake I see people making is they miss that first part, which is they don't even learn how to delegate to start with, or they are micromanagers and they want to control everything and how it gets done. And that's just recipe for disaster when it comes to business, whether that is entrepreneurship or not. I love this point from Jen. Leading is moving from getting things accomplished on your own to getting things accomplished through and with others. That is perfectly stated. It is not when you're leading and you're doing things on your own. It's when you are accomplishing with and through others. I think that is perfectly put. And to Jim's point, the faster you learn to do this, the less chances you have of burnout, because burnout is a real threat. It's something that we all will probably experience, hopefully not too much, but it definitely comes up to bite us sometimes. And when you learn to delegate, when you learn to lead effectively, your chances for burnout are greatly, greatly reduced. So this was super fun. I had a blast during this session. As always, I would love to know what you think and if this was helpful for you. I know it was helpful for a lot of us here, but I'd love to know what your thoughts were. As I said before, next Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern will be our last Wednesday gathering, our last coffee meeting together. And it is with none other than Antonio Neves. He is amazing. He is really going to help us to future set 2024 and make sure that we've shaken off our autopilot and really commandeered where we are facing and how fast and furiously we are racing to our goals. So I'm really excited about that session. I hope that you are going to come with all of the energy and fun and joy to end off 2023 before we pick back up again in 2024. So thank you so much, Kyle and Claude and Andrew and Giacomo and Jeff and Jen and Kelly and Zahara and just I can't even name everyone that was here because it's too many names, but just thank you for joining. If you can't join us live, you can always listen to this on Apple Podcasts or whatever podcast network you like the most, or of course, the replays right here on LinkedIn. So thank you so much. I will see you next Wednesday, my friend. Until then, have a beautiful, safe, wonderful weekend, and I will see you next week.